today we have a very, very special guest, and his name is Tim Hoover, and he's the co-founder of a company called SimplySeal. Tim, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company? What do you do?
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So I created a tech platform a few years ago, and 2 years ago, I started another platform beyond my first to really create a cohesive bidding experience for anybody bidding on work for any type of project.
Okay.
I really started focusing in on the HOA market. That's kind of the marketplace that I was born into. So I've been in the HOA space my entire life and kind of just jumped right in.
What do you mean your entire life?
Yeah, so our family had built a business within the HOA marketplace that predominantly serviced multifamily and homeowner associations in California. So I rode in the truck with my dad like we are right now. So I spent a lot of time in the truck going job to job with my dad and really got to understand the dynamics across the board from a lot of different angles, whether it's a contractor's experience, the management side, or even myself as a board member. I've got to see kind of the industry from all angles.
So you saw the wave coming and you just hop onto it.
Yeah, exactly. I've tried to kind of escape it, but as you guys know, it kind of just pulls you right back in.
So tell us a little bit about exactly who you serve as a business. What's your niche client?
Sure. Yeah. So our focus is really, we built the technology to service any sort of property owner, management, or service provider for any type of property. But our specific market that we're after is the homeowners association space. And really the goal with the technology is to streamline the bidding process, provide customers with certainty in outcomes, simplify the process for management, and then provide a level playing field for everybody bidding on work. And so there's a lot of challenges within the space regarding information sharing and other things that happen that ultimately affect pricing and quality of services. And so our goal is to really present a solution that, one, brings everybody together, but two, it ultimately provides the best service at the best price for customers.
So you guys are the pointy end of this. You got some depth of knowledge here.
We've got a lot of experience. I mean, we've been in this industry for a really, really long time. And, I service hundreds of homeowners associations and, I've worked with thousands of board members and worked with some fantastic management companies over the years. And there's been a big shift in the industry over the past 10 years that we've really seen, and it's really starting to affect regional and local businesses. And so, part of our strategy as a company is to provide an opportunity, a fair opportunity across the board for anybody that's wanting to work in this space. So part of our strategy with the tech is to level the playing field for all businesses in the pursuit of growth and provide a way for everybody to equally have a chance at winning work. That's kind of the overall ethos of our platform. And then as a bid management tool, we really, really help customers and management streamline the entire bidding process. So think of us as a reinvention of the process of bidding work.
If you can expand a little bit maybe on how it goes. So let's say I'm a manager and I want Steve to bid on my landscaping. Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so right now, without our technology or prior to our technology coming to market, the process is very scaled, right? Like the process is, we're not happy with our current landscape company. We're going to go out to bid and find a new one, right?
I mean, how could you be happy with Steve mowing your lawn,
Yeah, exactly. Steve, you're from New Jersey, so I don't know about that.
He's got rocks for grass.
I got rocks. Yeah, I got rocks and sand. There's no lawn here. Sorry.
Yeah. So the process is, board's not satisfied with current vendor, and they go to the management company and say, hey, management company, we want 3 contractors to come and bid on this work. Oftentimes you're bidding off of a pre-existing contract. And so, really it comes down to the customer expectation of what they want. We kind of start at that point, like without clear expectations, how can you present change or present a better outcome for customers? And so clarifying expectations for the boards or the associations up front is really the most important part, regardless of what they're currently paying or what their budget says. Like if you want a new roof on your property, there's 5 different variations of roofs that you can put on your property. It's ultimately up to the customer. But once a scope of work is established, if there is one, then they go out, they get 3 bids. The bids are submitted back to the management company. Sometimes prior to the bids, there's a bid walk, bid submission, there's a bid walk, and everybody's getting together. Bids are submitted to the management companies via PDF. And ultimately, at that point, that opens up the door for a lot of potential issues to arise as far as information sharing. And Over the years, there's been some fantastic managers that we've worked with that are extremely loyal and extremely honest and ethical with their bid practices. But over the past few years, there's been a big shift of information sharing. And so really the competitive makeup has changed with people submitting bids via PDF and then that information possibly being shared amongst other bidders. And ultimately, what's happening is it's creating a compounding negative effect of price and quality, because what happens is, let's say, for example, I'm hired as a building maintenance contractor for $10,000 a month and I get fired and the board goes out to bid. And if that information is understood by people bidding on work and visible, then possibly they're going to come in a little bit lower on the next bid. It might be $9,500. It might be $9,000. And oftentimes the board chooses the low bidder. And so over the years, I'd say the past 10 years, there's been a negative compounding effect on pricing. And we kind of hit the bottom and everybody's kind of throwing their hands up in the air and saying, like, what's wrong? We can't find any good service providers. These properties are falling apart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the platform digitally seals bids until all bids are submitted or a deadline expires. So really the information is completely secure prior to submitting it to the decision makers. But prior to the system unsealing the bids, there's a process called scope Q&A. And oftentimes, again, there's no scopes that are attached, right? And so scope Q&A is a process that allows all bidders to anonymously engage on the same platform and ask questions specific to what the customer might be expecting. And that scope Q&A process basically helps better refine the scope of work. And prior to bid submission, a checkbox pops up that says, would you like to attach the scope Q&A as an addendum to your contract? And what that does is it gives certainty to the customer that you're going to meet those expectations. And it also elevates a competitive bidding environment to where when a customer is looking at bids, they're looking at apples to apples bids versus apples to oranges bids.
Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to get this now. So instead of somebody saying, well, yeah, sure, I can do it cheaper, but we're going to do this differently. And then the other guy didn't know that was actually a possibility. And he probably could have even done a better job for less money, but not everybody's on the same page. So the apples to apples. Got it. All right. That sounds fabulous.
Definitely some things that can help a manager solving some of the pressure of the bidding process.
100%. Yep.
The properties and the environment that we work in is always changing. So that includes like all the decisions makers are always changing. And Steve, you know that for a fact, like sometimes you sign a contract and by the time you have the next meeting, you're dealing with new faces. And that can have its own challenges. Service providers, all those are responsible for the health of the communities. There's sometimes a lot of turnover as well. So what do you think is a catalyst here?
Yeah, so the cool thing with our technology is that, let's just say a manager is midstream on going out to bid for a project and they just up and leave that company. What happens to that bidding process? The owner of that company or the management stuck with like this limbo period of not knowing what's going on, right? So the cool part is the access to the information within your organization of basically having all of your bids centralized in a single location. So not only is it like a bid management automation tool, but there's a bid management component to where you can manage all of your bids in a single location. So if your manager, says, hey, I'm out of here, I'm leaving the industry, I'm going to another company, the owner of that company can instantly pick up where that left off. And that's good for people managing the bidding process, right? I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's been a massive amount of turnover at the management level and service provider level. You've got a lot of account managers or community managers that are jumping from company to company to make a little bit more money, right? And you can't blame them. That's their livelihood. That's what they do. They've got to put food on the table. But ultimately, there's been a massive amount of market consolidation over the past 10 years of equity companies coming into the industry and buying up businesses and consolidating the market. And really what they're doing is they're buying mechanisms of control to essentially grow their platforms and make them larger, right? Generate more revenue to appease investors oftentimes, right? And so as a result, what's happened is through the consolidation, people have driven, going back to the prices being driven down, ultimately you get to a bottom or you get to an inflection point that says, look, I'm managing 10 accounts and I'm making $50,000 a year. I can't live off of that. It's not possible. But, there's a contract associated to that association paying for those services. And ultimately the problem is these contracts, again, have been whittled down over time. And so, that drives into a bigger conversation of budget, but ultimately there's a massive amount of turnover because of market consolidation. But it really comes down to customer expectation and providing certainty and outcomes that customers' expectations are going to be met. And that's what we help do through our system.
Tim, so I got a question for you about some of the management companies and some of the changes that we're seeing out there. So what kind of position you hold on management companies that are offering vendor services under their own umbrella? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What's it going to do to the market?
Yeah, so part of that market consolidation is vertically integrating services, meaning there's management companies that are buying up different levels of service offerings that they can provide to customers as an all-inclusive sort of package or deal to the HOAs, right? These
Sure.
companies are trying to monetize every aspect of every door at these HOAs, right? And so part of that is management companies offering vendor services to their customers. And I get it, right? It's a revenue stream. It's a way to make money. However, what is the effect of that on your other relationships? Let's say I own a management company and I have a landscape company underneath my umbrella. How is it okay for me to manage the budget, have the relationship with the board, gather bids, access all the information to bids, and also provide a bid when I'm collecting the information, right? So, and not only that, but oftentimes the managers of some of these companies that are vertically integrating are put into an awkward position to where they almost have to push those services. And sometimes those services can't deliver. So it really creates this interesting dynamic between that manager working for the management company and the customer not being satisfied with possibly a janitorial service. And so I think that it's an okay thing if those management companies are sealing bids and delivering those bids directly to the customer at the same time. I think that creates a fair environment for those management companies to also bid on that work. Even though they know the budgets, like pretty much everybody's going to figure out a way to find out a pre-existing budget. But sure, I think that if they're sealing the information and they're presenting that information directly to the board and they're going through an interview process to hire these vendors, then I think that's a completely okay thing.
I think it's a nice thing that your technology actually does, because if a company has a business model that they are generating revenue through these add-on services, at least it kind of puts like a level of trust that you are making it fair to everybody.
100%. And it's good for everybody, right? It makes me, if I'm a bidder going up against a management company that has a services division, it makes me feel good that I've got a fair shot at winning the work. It makes me want to do more business with them and vice versa. And not only that, but it really builds trust and credibility with your customer. It's a way for them to actually stand out as leaders in the industry and say, look, we play by a fair set of rules that's good for everybody.
Now, what do you see it being, because we talk about a lot of technology either here, but also at conferences. What do you think is the next big tech move in the next 5 years in the common interest community world?
I think that the winner in this industry long-term will be who can consolidate a singular platform to ultimately automate workflow experiences and to streamline effective communication.
Wow, it's definitely an interesting outlook. I mean, communication is everything. It really is. And you know what? We have so many tools available to make the communication uniform, accessible. It's an interesting outlook. I love that. Now, on the show, we do like to give our guests an opportunity to recognize or shout out to somebody who's been influential in their career, in their life. The microphone is yours, Tim. Go for it.
Well, thank you, David. Steve, I appreciate you having me on the show. Somebody who doesn't get enough credit in my life is my dad. Just incredible man, set an unbelievable foundation for us.
So thank you very much for joining us, Tim Hoover. And if you don't know him, reach out to him in the comments below. It's worth the conversation.
Yeah, you can email me at tim@SimplySeal if you'd like.
All right, see you,
All right,
gentlemen.
gentlemen.
Hey.
Thank you.